My first summer here in Canton, 8 years ago now, I went on a bike ride with my wife and our little one-year-old in tow. We felt the natural curves and climbs of the land, saw the affable farms, the old stone fences, a few Confederate flags, a lot of yard signs that wanted to repeal the New York SAFE Act, and a plethora of Trump 2016 banners. Where did I just move my family to? In my shock and bewilderment, out on Syke Roads, I saw an old white farmhouse with a yard sign that read, "In this house we believe. Science is real. Love is love. Women's rights are human rights. Black lives matter. Water is life. No human is illegal. Kindness is everything." Salt of the earth people, my people. Someone shared my values. Months later, I found out whose house that was. It was Reverend David Weisbard's and Karen Wells' house. You may remember that more and more of those signs started popping up, especially after the election. It was sort of a rebellion against the MAGA movement. Those statements summoned up to me more than politics. It was connected to my faith. Reflecting back, I think those signs missed at least one important belief. And I know you can't fit all these statements on one yard sign, but there should have been something like, workers have rights, or all work is worthy. This emphasis on class and work is really, really important to me. My father is a blue-collar union man. When Walmart came to town and wouldn't allow unions to form, my dad stuck a yard sign in our yard that simply said, "Walmart sucks." It fit nicely next to the Clinton-Gore for president signs. Liberal beliefs have always included labor. And as Unitarian and Universalists, I think we should continue to focus serving working people and families. Over the past few decades, unions have been losing clout and members. Labor markets have become more deregulated. Free trade agreements have become the norm. I saw this with my own eyes in Milwaukee. Proud factories that once built small engines, farm equipment, and water heaters abandoned. Rusted padlocks shuttering their gates and chain link fences. In those spaces, people gathered together to work. They had shared experiences, mutual concerns, shared identities, played cards at lunch, and with all that, an ability to connect and organize. But now in the gig economy of Uber, Lyft, and food delivery apps, workers are competitively pitted against each other. Also, pensions have become a thing of the past for public sector workers. So the risk of investing for retirement is now put on workers. Yet, despite all of these things, gross domestic product, or GDP, which measures monetary value of goods and services, has grown exponentially. But the median worker wages has not grown proportionately. Wealth inequality has increased in our country. A CEO now makes 344 times more than the average worker at the corporation they head up. In the 1960s, it was 20 times. Our nation's wealth has increased, but our incomes have not proportionately increased. While housing has skyrocketed, stock market has grown, healthcare costs have increased at rates higher than inflation, the shares of wealth in our country has gone into a small number of families. And the Trump tax cuts from years ago fed into this income disparity. When the economy expands and productivity improves, everyone deserves a raise. In the richest country in the world, surely everyone should share in this collective material success. In this post-industrial world we live in, the government has to step in and be the guarantor of social welfare with job training and other programs just to preserve an already broken system. Now, there are policy solutions out there. One I've heard is to increase corporate taxes if the CEO makes more than 100 times their average worker. There's policy ideas like guaranteed income, wealth tax, and expanded child tax credit. I have no idea which policies will work and which ones won't. And at the same time, I know that material wealth and income is not the end-all, be-all. There must be alternatives to progress other than income or economic expansion. How about instead of measuring GDP, we measure happiness? What if our elected leaders made policies based not on just if the policy was good for the economy, but if it was good for human happiness and health? I am no economist. I don't understand how it all works. But what I do understand is why workers are angry and want things to change and be broken up. Fortunately for me, growing up, my dad was in a union and received good benefits and pay. But there are those who are working hard for who the whole system seems rigged. They can't afford a house, can't afford to save. Folks working paycheck to paycheck. People working hard yet having to decide between buying clothes and school supplies. People want to drain the swamp and get things shaken up. And so some turned to elect a New York City billionaire reality TV star who will say just about anything to get elected, like he alone can bring back high-paying factory jobs. In my work, in my ministry, my labor with all of you here, I can offer up a sort of theological and ethical reflection that I hope from time to time is at least inspiring. I don't know how or where these seeds, stories, and experiences will land, or if they will ever germinate. Or maybe my work really is about reminding us of the seeds we already have growing within us. The seeds that remind us of what really matters and what will ultimately bring about a true and lasting peace. We are part of an ecological civilization. Our work connects us to the bigger all. If we want to study and understand a tree, we don't just break down what it is made up on the molecular level. We look at its relationship to the soil, its relationship to other plants and animals around it, the weather and the climate. And so to fully understand the grandeur of work, we need a bigger and broader perspective and concern ourselves with the symbiosis and mutualism that exists between everyone's work. If we reduce things down to individual impulses and paychecks, our labor becomes a commodity. But when we look at all our work webbed together, we realize we are all connected. And we cooperate in making the civilization we live in. After all, we share more than DNA. There is the air we breathe, the sun, the climate we inherited, the storms. We all have the same basic needs: clean air, water, food, housing, healthcare, family, friends, places to play in and pray in, the need for the renewal of the Spirit. We are all part of a larger cooperative connection. Our world is truly one world. Despite all the messages we may hear throughout the day, we are not machine-like consumers driven by selfishness. We are part of an ecological community. Anywhere work retains its social meaning through sincerity and authenticity, through care, through love, our work is rehumanized. Work is more than a transaction, punching a time clock. Working together and cooperating to get something accomplished is a very fulfilling human endeavor. Recently on Facebook, a question went out to a closed group of UU ministers. What advice would you tell a seminarian about ministry? My response was, focus in on relationship, relationship, and relationship. And I think this is good advice for all work. As I reflect back on all the jobs that I've had, working in a beer warehouse, a gas station clerk, a bowling alley gopher. I had, sometimes just randomly pick up bowling pins and clean shoes. Clerk at a bakery, a lawn maintenance technician, a barista at a coffee shop, a waiter. I worked in a box office, a financial advisor, a technology analyst, an activities coordinator at a nursing home, and now a minister. I can tell you the fondest memories I have are the relationships I formed with colleagues and customers and clients and congregants. Work becomes something more when we share it with others. Yes, it seems that our country is becoming more and more inequitable. Much of it is perhaps beyond our control. But we can do small things to humanize work. There's a bunch of research out there that illustrates the 3 degrees of influence rule. We influence our friends' friends, and our friends' friends. Follow me? 3 degrees. The research is pretty conclusive. If we smoke, it is more statistically likely that our friends will smoke, and their friends will smoke, and so on. But if we quit smoking, it is more statistically likely that those 3 degrees of influence may also quit smoking. So we can acknowledge and thank people for their work. We can build relationships with the people we work with or work for us. We can start here, in Canton, in Colton, in Potsdam, in Pirates, by recognizing the sanctity of human work. If we live with that awareness and gratitude, it will rub off on our friends, and our friends' friends, and our friends' friends' friends. I think I got that right. I know that we are bombarded with thousands of images and ads per day that may tell us otherwise. And I have only these 15 or 20 minutes in my work to remind you, our work is part of something much bigger. Our work is for us and for others. We can proudly live out our lives with signs that say we are not isolated individuals, we are a network of human beings, and live out the bigger awareness of what Labor Day is. So instead of Labor Day being simply a day off work to have picnics and hot dogs, the last hurrah of summer, let's also celebrate how our labor is interconnected and interdependent. Let's recognize how all work can be an expression of our personal goals and a contribution to the common good. Let's celebrate the people who grow our food, manufacture our cars, build our houses, keep our grocery store shelves stocked, pick up our trash, deliver our packages, care for our children and our aging elders. You know, in the pandemic, we were taught that some were essential workers. Work is essential to being human. All labor matters in an ecological civilization. So may it be, and amen.